Okay, so to build the leg, I'm going to use the bend tool again, in a similar fashion to the way I built the little this little under portion here, but with some slight changes. And you don't have to do it this way, but and I happened upon it quite by accident. Okay, so in order to again to make the leg, and with the boot, what we're going to do is start with a tube. If you look at it pretty carefully, it is just a tube that's been flattened and then bent. That's pretty much it. And then the surfaces have been altered a little bit by just switching, selecting different polygons. So let me go ahead and start on a new layer. Put this one in the background just so we use this for positioning purposes. And remember, you only need to build one because you can mirror the other side. So I'll go ahead and select Create, and I'm going to select the Disk tool. And I want to make sure that it fits in here. So let's go ahead and just click from the side here, like so. Make sure 25-25 is pretty good, and then I'll pull it out. The length of this, I'm not sure, because once we bend it and we stretch it and we torque it, we can do all kinds of stuff with it, but I'm not sure exactly. I'm taking a guess and hoping that this is about the right length. Now this is where I happened upon this by accident. Remember how, well, in order to bend this, we need additional geometry, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and I'll add segments, a whole bunch of them, maybe 48 is good again. Just a whole bunch so you get a nice tight mesh. On the other hand, and it would be nice to keep the 24 sides, but what I discovered later on is in order to, at least for me, in order to build the foot and attach it along with the leg, it was easier for me to build the foot separate and to weld it to the leg. And we haven't used that tool yet, the weld tool, and that will be a new tool that we'll use today. So you can, and it's a good one to be aware of, that you can have separate parts and you can actually weld them together. Okay, and we'll do that later on with another project. So in order to weld it together, if I have, if I'm welding this hand to this hand, I have to have like points with like points. You're going to weld point by point by point. So you have to have the same number of points to the same number of points, correct? Well, if I have 24 sides, that's 24 points that I have to weld. That's a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pare this down. Instead of 24, I'm going to change it to maybe 12 or 8. And when we change the surfacing, I'm going to turn smoothing on, and that will smooth it out a little bit, but it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be pretty nice. It's a good way to go. Okay. So having done that, I already know, I'm going to look over here for a minute, and I can tell that this is already somewhat flattened a little bit. Let me look at this again from the side here. I'm going to look at the picture in here for a minute and see. I want to look at it from here. So this is pretty rounded, and then it's flattened down here, and then bent, and then it flares out. And it flares out here too. So this part is rounded, then it's flattened. Okay, so I'm going to leave it this as is, and then in order to flatten it, I'll go ahead and I'll use the stretch tool to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this like so. That's fine. And then we'll go ahead and we'll use the stretch tool. But in order to use the stretch, what I want to do is I want to add fall off. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add linear fall off. And to add that fall off, I need to pull out the widget. And to do that, if you have a 3-button mouse, right click and drag, If you do not, then hold down the command key and click and drag. So I want it to remain rounded right about here, but I want it to start to flatten right about here. Right about here, so I'm going to right click and drag and pull it out. And I'll right click to center this, like so. Okay, then from the right view, I'm going to left click and flatten it. Notice how it's flattening. Now, it's flattening too much along here. I want it to start back here. So even further back. So I'm going to undo and right click and pull this back like so. And maybe right click and pull this all the way back here. Again, you have to tinker with this until you get something appropriate. That's about right. See how it's flattening the way I want it? It's staying pretty rounded here, but it's starting to flatten much sooner, and then I can bend it right about here. That's pretty good. Maybe a little bit. I'm going to pull this back just a tad more, like so. Left click here, and we'll flatten it. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I flattened just this part. Now I'm ready to bend from about here down. So this is rounded, you know, this is round here, flattened here. Now I'm ready to bend it, and then I'm going to flare it back out. So I'm going to switch from stretch to bend. And again, I want it to start to bend right about here. So we'll go ahead and we'll use the linear. Right click to pull out the widget. And I want it to bend pretty quickly. So I'll pull this back a little bit, start it back here, and have it end right about here. I want it to completely have bent right about here. Make sure that this is centered up. So make sure you're watching all the views when you do this. Okay, let's pull this down left. And that's looking pretty good. Is that what I want? No, it's bending too soon. So let me pull this back out like so. Let's bend again. That's looking pretty good. Let me look back here for a minute. Yeah, that's looking real good. Okay. It's nice and flattened. Now I'm ready to flare this back out. Does that make sense? So I bent one part of it. Now I'm going to flare the bottom portion back out. So that can be the stretch tool again. And again, in order to weight it, I don't want it to flare throughout, so I want to weight it a particular section of it, and then we'll flare that part back out. So I'm done with that, and we'll go ahead and we'll use stretch again. And I'm going to move this down like so. And I'm going to right click, pull that out, because I want it to start to flare about here, and then finish flaring about here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this back over. Make sure that we have this centered up. Okay. Now I probably want to look, instead of the top view here, I'm going to go ahead and look at the bottom view. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but what I want to do is I want to flare this. Whoops, I still have bent, I have stretch, right? Okay, let me check my mode down here, see what I got here. No wonder. I want action center, center of selection. So let me try this again. No? Okay. Then let me try mode, center of mouse. So let's try that. That's working pretty good. See how it's getting flared at the bottom? That's looking pretty good. It's not quite symmetrical the way I'd like it, but I'm getting the effect that I want. So I'm going to go back again. I'm going to do this one instead of right. I'm going to do this one from the bottom. Let's see if I can't get this to work. No, it's not helping me. Let me go back to right. And I'm not quite sure. Action center, center of selection. Okay, we'll try this again. So I'm going to click down here. No, that's not going to work. Let's left click here. No, no, no. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, let me go from here and look at this from the bottom. So I'm looking down the edge of this. Okay, then I'm going to go back to center of mouse. Try again. Well, I'm having trouble controlling this myself. And I am not sure why. Let's go back here. Let's go back here. And go back to the top. There we go. Now why suddenly this is working and it wasn't before, I don't know. So notice how I'm getting this to flare out. And this looks pretty good. And what I have to do now, since I'm pretty happy with this, and I better just leave well enough alone, is that I want to attach a foot to this. And if I need to change the proportions, I can, but I think I've got something good here. Now, notice how I've got this all goofed up here. If you hold down the Option key, notice how it switches to a free rotate. If I click and I drag, now I can get this back and working again. So this looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm ready to attach a foot to this. Everybody see how I did that? Now, where this is difficult here is that when to get the control of the flare to actually have it stretch symmetrically the way I wanted it. And I tried action center, center of selection, and that should have worked. At least I thought so. But it didn't seem to work so well, so I just said action center, center of mouse, made sure that my mouse was centered over this, and then when I stretched it, it made a pretty symmetrical move. So this is how I'm going to do the foot. I'm going to go ahead and put the foot on another layer now, and put this in the background for a minute. So I'm just looking at the leg for a moment. Okay, so this looks pretty good. You can see what I've done here. Again, I started with a simple cylinder, added geometry so that it will allow me to bend, allow me to stretch, flare, and however I want to torque this and to reconfigure it, and then use the weight maps that are available. And that's basically what they are, weight maps, to control about which points I want them to bend, about which points I want them to start and end the stretch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select another, I'm going to make this my my foreground for a minute, and I'm going to select this polygon. I don't need this polygon at the bottom, because remember I said what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the leg, I'm going to build the foot, and then I'm going to weld the foot to the leg. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kill the poly here, because I don't need that. Okay, put this in the next layer in the foreground and this one in the background. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a foot for this. And it's going to start pretty much in the same way that I did the other. I'm going to start with a simple disc, and I'm going to build it over the foot here, like so. Okay, and I'm using the same number of sides, but I don't need all of these segments. I'm going to go ahead and just have a couple here. I'm going to move it down in place. And we can stretch this out, make it wide. You know, a nice big foot. Let's move this down like so. A little bit too long. Let's pull this back a little bit. Just trying to check proportions here. And this is pretty subjective. Okay. Maybe stretch this up just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks about right. So I'm done with my disc, and the important point is that I have 12 sides here. I want to change this to 8. I want to make sure that I have 8, or wait a minute, I had 12 before, didn't I? If I have 12 here, I need to make sure that I have 12 below. I guess I put 12. Okay, not 8. Okay, I'm hoping that I counted right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. Anybody help me count here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, I think I had 12. 12 and 12. Remember I said if I'm going to weld this to this, I need the same number of points. So we'll find out in a minute if I counted correctly. Let me T for move. Let's move this over just a little bit. There we go. So it's nice and centered. I don't need this top polygon, so I can kill it. K for kill. And now what I'm going to do is put them on the same layer. So I hit Command X, go back to this layer, hit Command V for paste, and it's down here. Okay. Now I can weld point for point. And if I need a little bit of extra geometry, which I might, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I should probably do that. Let me go ahead and select these polygons down here. I probably should have not killed that poly. So I'm going to go ahead and select these points again. I goofed. I didn't really goof. I mean, it's just going back and selecting these points again, and go ahead and hit P for poly. So that's back on there again. And I probably want a little bit more geometry, because I'm going to add, I want this to be the thickness of his sole, and I want a little bit of extra geometry added that I'm going to use to weld to these bottom points down here. So the tool that we used before to add geometry when we had a single polygon was bevel tool, correct? So I'm going to hit B for bevel and just click. Whoops, No polygons selected. Got to make sure I have the polygon selected. B for bevel. Make sure that I have it selected. Nope, I don't. There we go. B for bevel, and click once. That's all I need to do. Now I can hit T for move. I can move it up just a little bit, like so. So I've got this additional geometry that I've added here. Now I can kill the polygon. So I'll go ahead and hit K for kill. And now I'm going to go ahead and proceed to weld. To weld, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to the Detail tab. And you'll notice right here, it says Weld. Now, it's not absolutely critical which direction you go, and you don't have to go in order. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and move around a little bit and zoom in so I can see. But you do need to match point for point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the front, and we're going to select points. I'm going to click, let's deselect these points here. I'm going to click this point, and I want to make sure that I have the front point selected of the other one here. So I'll select this point by holding down the Shift key. And now I can select Weld. 2 points selected, that's good. And notice how it took that one and it attached it. And now I'm just going to go around the horn, as it were, point by point. Select each of these and select this one. Watch what happens. If I select the other order, if I select this one first and then this one, and I hit Weld, watch what happens. It takes the first one and it moves it to the other position. See how it moved it the other way? So you want to be consistent in the order that you select the points. So I'll select this one, then this one, and then select Weld. 2 points selected, that's good. Just go around, select this one, then this one, select Weld, and notice I'm just going around and it's attaching all these points together. And I'm making my foot and attaching it. Pretty cool, huh? I mean, we could have probably beveled this out of, the bottom of the foot. I just found it easier to make that foot a separate part and then just weld them together. And if I had 24 sides, that's 24 points that I have to weld together. And I didn't think that I needed all that geometry, so just from experience, deciding that I need a little bit less. I'll go ahead and select this point, then this one. We'll go ahead and select Weld. Looks like I've selected the right number of points here. So I'm just going all around, trying to match point for point. Just selecting 2 points at a time. I'll have it done in a second here. I think I have one more to go. I do. And it's fitting together pretty nicely. So now I have my foot. Another way to round all of this out, to smooth it out, and something that we haven't used yet, but it's used often in organic modeling, is to use Subpatch or meta-NURBS. And to do that, you really should only have 3 or 4 pointed polys, no more. But you'll notice at the bottom I have a 12-pointed poly down here. So this may cause problems down here, but I don't think it should be a major issue. But what I need to do is you hit the tab key, and it says only faces with 3 or 4 vertices can be converted to subpatch. That's okay. But notice when I do that, notice how it smooths everything out. So that's not a bad way to go. To really fix this properly, I should get rid of this 12-pointed polygon at the bottom. And by removing it, there's a way that we can go ahead and take those points and merge them together so that we eliminate the 12 and only have 3-pointed. But because this is at the bottom, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. So there's my leg. Notice how I started with a simple tube, and I used the bend tool, and I used the stretch tool. I weighted it so that I could control where the bend was, where the stretch was. You know, I mean, if you want it stretched uniformly, then it will do that from one end to the other. But if you only want it to bend from one point or stretch from one point on, then you pull that widget out, either clicking with the right mouse and dragging, or holding down the command key and clicking and dragging and pulling that widget out so that it controls the start and the end point of the bend, of the stretch, of whatever it is that you want to do. Now, the other thing that I need to do for this is to set up my surfaces, because you'll notice that his boot is, let me turn meta nerves or subpatch back off. If we look here, you'll notice that from about the knee down is red, and from here up is a different surface. But remember, we can select polygon by polygon and select the ones that we don't, select the a different surface for each. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select from about the knee, from about the knee up. So I'll go ahead and make sure that the polygons are selected. And from about midpoint up, let me zoom in a little bit here so I can see this a little bit better. Okay. So this is probably a good point here. Let's go from here down, I guess. So select all of these, because this will be for his boot, right? So I selected all of those polys. So I've only selected half of them. Hit Q, and we'll make this boot. And I'll go ahead and I'll make a nice red here. Nice bright red boot. Okay. Now what I can also do is I can inverse that selection. So let's go to View, and I can, wait a minute, where is it? I should be able to invert. See the invert button right here under Selection? So what it will do is it'll take everything that I have selected and unselect it, and everything that isn't selected will select it. So now I can go ahead and I can hit Q for this, and because this one is already selected, this happens to be the brass selection, we'll make that brass. So I took some polygons and made them one surface, and I made other polygons and made it a different surface. That's legit. For every polygon you have, you can have a different surface. Okay. Now what I'm going to do to cover that seam is just put a sphere, because that's going to be the joint. Does that make sense? Like so. Well, let's go ahead and see what we have here. And I can mirror this. Before I mirror it, though, I should probably go ahead and put the sphere for his knee here. So let's go ahead and create the sphere. Smooth this down here. There we go. Right about here. Can make this a little bit bigger. Probably 50. No, that's too big. How about 40? Let's move it in place. I want to see this other one in texture in a minute. Well, maybe it should be a little bit bigger. Just make it 50. I'm just guessing at the size of these proportions here. That looks about right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and I'll hit Q, make, whoops, new, and I want this, I already set up one for chrome because it's going to be a chrome joint. And I can go ahead and cut it, and we'll put it back on this layer. That looks good. And then I'll take all of this and cut it and put it on my other layer. Actually, I'm going to go back. Hold on here. Let me paste this again. I'm going to go ahead now. Oh, shoot. I didn't want to do that. I want this here. I'm going to go ahead and mirror this first. It's just easier because if nothing is selected, everything is selected, right? So we go ahead back to multiply. Go ahead and select mirror. Go ahead and activate. Boom, I got my other one. So I only had to make it once. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on subpatches just for this, just to smooth it out. Now I'll go ahead and cut it. Go back over to this layer and paste it. Now I have nice feet, nice legs. Okay? It all matches pretty well. Looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and make the arms, and then we can make the arms and hands. Okay. Did everybody follow that? Somewhat? Okay. Let's go ahead and, again, I'm going to work on other layers again, just to keep it separate for the time being. And once again, we're going to start with, under the create, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with a disk. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Is we're just going to make another, for his arm up here, we're just going to make a cylinder. Because there's no bends in here or anything, we just need the minimal geometry. So I can go ahead and zoom in here from the side and click and drag, pull out. Pull this out like so. Move this in place. And I'm just overlapping a little bit and make sure that it fits kind of nice. Let's see what we have here. How long are his arms? It's a little bit too long. We'll go ahead and pull this back a little bit, like so. I'm going to go back to 24 sides though. One segment though. I don't need additional geometry. I don't need any joints in there for a bend. Now, this is tapered a little bit. Notice how his arm is tapered just a tad. So what I need to do, or the only thing that I need to do really, is to select the end, and then remember from mode, selections, center of selection, and we'll size it. We'll just go ahead under modify, select size, and we can reduce it. Notice how it tapers it. Done with that. Deselect that. Let's go ahead and make a little ball at the end for his joint, and then we'll make his forearm. The forearm is a little bit different. The forearm, he does need more geometry, because if you look at the forearm carefully, see how there's little bulges in here, and here. It's really pretty much here. You know, kind of like Popeye's forearm, but it's not as exaggerated as his. But what we can do is we can go ahead and add geometry so that we can actually balloon that out. And we'll use the pull tool to do that, and we'll pull it uniformly. But we'll still use a widget to control where we want that pull, you know, the bulge to start and where we want it to end. Okay. So let's go back here. Whoops, I didn't want that. I want this. Okay, so I'm going to bring out the ball again, because I just want a little ball for the joint here. I don't want that. Let's go from the top. Move this in place like so. That looks pretty good. 15, that looks pretty good. Okay. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to set that up for, I'm going to go ahead and select these guys. Go to View, say Select Connected. And I forgot to select, create the surface for it. So that's just going to be another brass surface. Okay. And then I'll select some polygons here in the sphere, and that's going to be another chrome surface. So again, make sure that I have Select Connected. Since they're on the same layer, that's why I'm doing that. And then I hit Q. And I'm going to make sure that I have chrome selected here. And again, these are just placeholders. They don't look anything like the final surface, and we'll get to that on Wednesday probably. Okay, so I have that. So now I'm ready to add my forearm here. Go ahead under Create, and we'll once again ask to select the disk tool. Click and drag. So pull this out. Move this out like so. This probably doesn't need to be very big. Let's see, how about the radius here? Probably 10. That looks pretty good. This is way, way, way too long. It doesn't have to be quite that long. Like so. A little bit longer than his upper arm. But I do need to add segments. I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of segments. Because this is relatively short, probably 24 segments should work pretty well. Okay, everybody see what I'm doing here? Let's go ahead and hit Q. And make this one brass also. Just get it done. Now I need to create the bulge in here. Now it would probably be easier if I put this on another layer or to isolate it. So I'm going to go ahead and select a handful of polygons. and I'll go ahead and I'll say select connected. I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and I'm going to put this even on another layer and paste, and then put this in the background so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, this is the part what we need to do in order to build the bulge coming out of here. Now we go to modify, and hidden under more, I want pole. And I want it to be the pole evenly tool. And again, you'll notice we have fall offs. I'm going to use radial, and I want a nice rounded fall off here. And I'll right click to click and drag to pull this out. Whoops, didn't want to do that. Right click again. To move this in its place. Right click to pull this out. Right click to move it. Okay, now from the end, I'm going to go ahead and click and drag. Notice how it bulges. I can have it suck in. I can have it go out. Notice how it's only affecting that part that's contained within that little blue area. Now it's probably a little bit beyond what I want, but that's okay. Undo. Come on. Okay. Why aren't you undoing? Undo. There we go. Okay, I'm going to bring the widget back out again. So let's go back and select pull evenly. And right click. Right click. Pull this out. Right click, shrink. Right click, just to resize this, move it. And again from the end, enlarge it, and that looks pretty good. See how I've ballooned just that area? That looks pretty good. I'm just going to leave that alone. Now I can cut this, put it back on the other layer, and I have my arm completed. I should probably go ahead before I mirror this arm and build the hand. And this is worth watching. This will be your first experience doing a little bit of organic modeling. We're going to use a box in order to build the hand. If we look at the hand, it's actually sort of blobby looking. See how it's sort of rounded, almost like a mitten, but it's nice and rounded, and you see the little tips up here for his thumb. Okay. So let me come back here and cut this part. Let's go back to here and let's paste this part. Okay. And I'm going to leave this now in the background and this in the foreground so I can position and size the hand. Okay, to make the hand, I'm going to use a box like so. Click and drag. And click and drag and move it in place. And I need some extra segments here in order to do this. Not much. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add so they have 2 segments. And that's actually probably more than really what I need here. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this. Because from the top view, he has sort of a flat, and it's sort of broad from here. Everybody with me so far? You see how I've added segments? These segments could be added later. but I thought it would be nice just to do it now. And I'm starting with a little blobby block that I'm going to use to pull out the geometry for his hand. Okay, done with that. Now watch, if I hit the tab key, notice how it turns into a round, sort of blobby piece of clay. Now I'm ready to pull out the geometry for his hand. I'll start with a thumb. So I select one polygon here. This is going to be his thumb right here. And the tool we've used before to add geometry is the bevel tool for a single polygon, right? So I hit B for bevel, and I just click. Now I hit T for move, and watch, I pull that out and move it a little bit, and I have his thumb. That's all there is to it. Now I need, for the mitten part, for his fingers, I need to add geometry there. So let's deselect. Let's make sure that I have move turned off, deselect that. This time I need to select these two polygons right here. See? Now, this is a slight variation on this. If I use the bevel tool, watch what happens. There just as there are with most tools, there are variations. You know, there's the pull evenly and there's the pull tool. There's the size tool and the stretch tool. They're really the same tool, but they're slightly different. The size tool will size something uniformly. The stretch tool, you can control the height, width, and depth of how you stretch something. But they enlarge or reduce. You know, they still do the same thing. Similarly, when you bevel, it adds geometry. There's another tool called Smooth Shift. That also will add geometry, and that's found under the Multiply tab here. You'll see Smooth Shift just below where bevel is. Okay, Smooth Shift is very similar, but I'm going to go ahead and do bevel first, and I want to show you what happens when you have multiple polygons selected, as opposed to just one polygon, and you add the geometry. So if I go ahead and with these two polygons selected, and I go ahead and I select the bevel tool, B for bevel, and I click, notice how it treats them as individuals. And now I hit T for move, and I pull it out. See how they're separate entities? Like rabbit ears, little fingers. Now, instead, let me undo once again. Now if I select Smooth Shift with those two polygons selected, and I click, and I hit T for move, now watch what happens. See how it treats them uniformly as one? Do you see the difference? When you have multiple polygons selected and you select the bevel tool, it treats each of those polygons, it adds geometry to each of those polygons separately, and it treats them as separate. If you have multiple polygons selected and you use Smooth Shift, it keeps them together and adds the geometry. So now what I can do, now that I have the hand here, I can go ahead and I don't need the polygons selected anymore. Let's hit T for, I can go ahead and another modify tool that I can use is the drag tool, which is pretty good. I can come over here, and if I want to point, you know, make this a little bit more pointy, pull that out a little. Here. Let's select it from here. I'm going to click from here and pull that out a little bit, pull this out a little bit. So you can see I'm just stretching that and making it a little bit more like a mitten kind of thing. So the drag tool, something that we haven't used before but is used a lot, is that in order to use the drag tool, you can click on individual points and drag them around without having to select the points first. But you do have to click on a point in order to move it. Okay. So now I need to turn this into, I need to change the surface of this. So I'll go ahead and hit Q, and I already have the red surface which is, I'm going to use the same one for the boot. Boot and glove, I guess, is what it should be. And you can see that I made my little hand. So I'll go ahead and I'll cut it. Come on. Oh, come on. And I'll go back to this layer and I'll paste it. And now I'll take the whole layer and I'll mirror it. So we'll go ahead and multiply, and we'll select mirror. We'll activate it. So now we have two. If I zoom out a little bit, you'll see we have both. Now I can go ahead and I can cut this, and I can go back to this layer, and I can paste. And I have my arms. Now, the way I'm modeling this now would be, notice that it's not in a pose. It's kind of like the Vitruvian Man, you know, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, the guy who's outstretched. That when you're modeling characters and you're getting them ready to add bones so that you can animate them, it's easiest if you just build them like so, like the Vitruvian Man. And then it's easier to add your bones, and then once your bones are added, then you can go ahead and move them any way you like. So I'm going to turn off textured wired so we can see my guy here. His arms are a little bit too long. I could probably shrink them a little bit, but close enough for right now. Okay. Do you want me to repeat any of this before I turn off the video? Does it make sense how I did this? Again, starting with, the whole point of doing this piece is to start with primitives. You can do a lot with primitives. I mean, cubes, spheres, cones, cylinders, whatever. In this particular instance, we used cylinders for a lot of different things. The cylinders, in fact, were, by adding a little bit of geometry at the time that we built them, we were able to use the bend tool, we were able to use the stretch tool, we were able to use the pull tool, we were able to use the size tool, and control them, you know, control how we bent them, control how we sized them considerably so to get these intricate shapes. Now, something that I goofed and I didn't do is I need to select these polys and hold down the shift key, select these polys, and I want to select connected, and I need to, there we go. Make sure that I had my joints here. Okay. You guys ready to give this a whirl yourself? Give it a try for the remainder of today. Got a couple hours left. Okay.